What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for listening. I wanted to put this in the top of the show. Make sure you subscribe on Patreon, patreon.com/Brennan Tassif. Check out the merch store at brennantcomedy.com to get your ex-drinking buddy merch. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. As always, we're coming to you live from Gotham Production Studios, and I hope you enjoy the episode.
Grab me your beer and grab me a coke. We bout to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brennan T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. I am your host, Brennan Tassif. If you're new to the program, quick rundown of the show. I used to be everyone's favorite drinking buddy. It was my favorite thing to do. Hang out with friends, get drunk, do drugs, get in all sorts of trouble, and then reminisce about those crazy stories. I am sober now, but that is still one of my favorite things to do. Hang out with somebody and reminisce about the crazy old days. Most weeks I will be joined by a guest. This week is no exception. All the way from Albuquerque, New Mexico, Jake Otero.
Yeah, what's up, man?
What's up, dude?
I am super excited to be here. I love New York. New York is the shit.
I know you've only been here for like 48 hours and you're already in love with it.
Dude, yeah, that's the thing. Is like I don't want to come because I know I'm not going to want to go back home. And yeah, that is true.
So let's talk about it. Well, before we get too far into anything, plug everything up front, social media, all this will come out today for Patreon and then Monday for everyone else. So any shows you have coming up next week or any websites, anything like that?
Yeah, so make sure to just follow me on Instagram. It's just Jake Otero Comedy. I'm also on TikTok. Same thing, Jake Otero Comedy. And I have shows. I'll be in Albuquerque. I have some shows tonight. But in Albuquerque, I'll be at Brew Lab, Elvato, and then Dry Heat Comedy Club and Revel Entertainment Center as well.
Perfect.
So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Jake Otero Comedy.
Yeah.
I love it when you have a name that's unique enough to where all you have to do is throw the comedy at the end of it.
Dude, yeah, exactly. Well, for a long time, I just had, it was just Jake Otero because, like...
Is there another Jake Otero that stole it?
No. Well, so I could have done it, but then I was in that like weird space where I'm like, I don't know if I should call myself a comedian. Like I was just like really weird, but then I started getting stuff and I was like, oh yeah, it's just going to make it easier for people to find
You're
me.
better than me. I did 2 open mics and then changed all my social media handles to Brennan T Comedy.
Fuck yeah. See, that's the way to do it.
This is back in 2009 when like you would do your... you would make your employment on your Facebook stand-up comedian.
Yeah, that's why.
God, I immediately got rid of that because I was like, oh, I don't like the way that looks. And then it became like a running joke. Like later on in like, you know, the 2010s, everyone was like, oh, if you have stand-up comedian, you're not a real stand-up comedian. And I was like, oh, I'm not a loser. I'm going to take that off. So I wanted to have you on. So you're Zach Bennett, friend of the show. You know him from New Mexico.
Yes, yeah. Zach is amazing. That's my dude.
He was the guy. His episode was the godfather of Daytona comedy. He kind of, with the help of some of his friends, started pretty much the scene that is now present day Daytona comedy. He kind of started that. So
wow,
you met him when he was in New Mexico. Obviously, he moved out there and he was doing stand up, and then that's how you two met. And then he texted me in true Zach Bennett form, where he was like, "Hey, Brennan, I have a friend coming to New York. You know, can you help him out with anything?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. Just let me know the dates they're coming." And he goes, "Tomorrow. He'll be there tomorrow." And I was like, "Son of a bitch! Like, I need more notice than 12 hours."
Yeah.
But it was cool. You came in. It was your first time in the city, and I say this all the time, but I always get super excited when no one's ever been to the city and they love comedy because their eyes like light up when they see the cellar and like they see all these comics and they're like, "Oh my god,
dude!"
And I was
definitely.
like, "Oh yeah, I remember what that was like when I first got here."
Dude, yeah, the cellar. I went a few days ago, and it was just amazing seeing that because like. It's just so legendary, and I saw the 11:30 show, and I specifically chose that to see Dave Attell, who is my favorite comedian of all time, and so
which is weird. The weird thing is when we were texting, you were like, "I'm seeing Dave Attell," and I automatically, because he always does the late show there, so I was like, "Oh, the 11:30 show." And again, this goes back to just being in New York. I've only been here for 2 years, but just being in New York, it's like, yeah, that's the show Dave does. Is the 11. But you were like, yeah, I made sure to get a reservation for that show so I could say, I go, yeah, he does that show every day. That's his show.
Exactly, yeah.
And then because I saw some of the pictures you posted, so you and I we hung out before.
Yes.
You went to a show, and then you met me at the Olive Tree, which is the restaurant. We hung out for a little bit. Then you went to the 11:30, and I left. But then I saw some of the pictures. So what ended up happening?
Dude, so I pay my tab and I walk outside and Dave just leaves, and I thought it was kind of like the Comedy Store where you could just see him walking right there because I just wanted to see him.
Yeah.
And I didn't. I was like, oh, all right, whatever. But to preface that, right when he comes in, because I'm sitting right by the kitchen where they take the checks and everything, and so I saw him walk in, and the girl sitting next to me looked at me kind of funny because I kind of gasped, and so he walks. And I see him. He's like right there, and I just put my hand out like that. He's like, "Hey, what's up, buddy?" And I was like, "Oh shit!" So that was a highlight of my night already.
Yeah.
And so I'm leaving, and I walk out, and I like just was going to like catch the subway on my way home, and I hear, "Thanks for coming, man." And I look, and I was like, "Oh shit!" Like it's fucking Dave Attell. So like I was just like stoked. I was like, "Hey man, can I get a picture with you?" And he's like, "Yeah, of course." And I go, and I remember he smelled like cigarettes.
Yeah,
I remember
smokes
that.
a lot. That's how I met Dave.
Really?
Outside smoking. Yeah.
Dude, I was thinking too. I was like, I
have a whole bit about like meeting famous people smoking. Everyone's like, smoking's terrible. I go, I've met Chappelle, Attell, like
dude,
Tom Rowe. I've met all these people hanging out smoking.
Dude, that's so sick. Like if I could go back, I would have bought a pack of cigarettes just for that.
You'd be shocked how much time you can get away with just standing there hanging out when you're smoking, because you're doing something. You're smoking a cigarette.
Yes.
And no one's. Like if we're hanging out outside and then you and I start smoking, I'm not halfway through the cigarette gonna like turn and like start like we're doing something together.
Exactly, dude. I'm gonna pick that up again because like especially if I'm living here, because it was so funny because it was just insane. I took a picture with him and he's on these like steps like right next to the cellar.
In front,
and I was walking down and my legs felt weak as shit. It felt like a dream. Like it was really weird.
It's so cool because I remember when me and my ex Savannah had come up here to look at apartments. I said, this is like when we first started dating. She got me the coolest gift anyone's ever gotten me. She got me tickets to go see Laughs at the Garden, which is like a New York thing. It's a comedy show it's like a charity fundraiser, but like people don't come from out of town to see it. Like it's like a New Yorker thing. But she knows I love Bill Burr, so she looked up where Bill Burr was going to be, and that happened to be one of the shows. It was in New York, so we were living in Florida. She's like, we'll kill like 10 birds with one stone. We'll go up there, we'll see the comedy show. You'll be able to experience New York because I had never been as an adult. And she was like, we'll also be able to look in areas for apartments and like kind of check out certain areas because we were going for like a week.
Okay.
And it was the same kind of thing as like just getting up here and like experiencing like New York. But one of the nights that on that trip is when I went outside of our hotel because she paid for the hotel and she made more money. She makes more money than I do. So we stayed at the Soho Grand. And so I go outside at like 7:30 in the morning to smoke a cigarette.
Yeah.
And Chappelle walks out because he's also staying at the Soho Grand.
Holy shit,
and
dude.
like we were staying in like a regular room. He's obviously staying in the suite upstairs, but like if you want to smoke, you both got to come outside.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
This isn't a comedy club where you run shit. Like you got to smoke
Yeah.
outside of. And so he probably smokes in the room. Who knows? But Chappelle walks out and he stops to light his cigarette, and I immediately like same thing, like panic. I'm like, ah,
Yeah.
and I just blurt out, "Oh my God, you're Dave Chappelle. I'm a comedian from Florida. I love you. Everybody loves you." And he just turns and goes, "Thanks, man." And paused for a second and then kept walking. But the joke I say on stage is I love smoking cigarettes because now I'm best friends with Dave Chappelle. But
that's sick.
And then Tom Rhodes was the same thing. We went to the cellar that night and I'm like beaming. I'm like, I can't believe all this is happening.
Yeah.
And Tom Rhodes was one of the first, when I was like 12 or 13, one of the first ever Comedy Central presents I ever saw.
Yeah.
And so I've always looked up to him. Same thing. Comes around the corner and I'm like, that's Tom Rhodes. And my Savannah was like, who? I go, that's Tom fucking Rhodes. Yeah. And he walks up, same fucking thing you did. Put my hand out, got a fist bump from him. I was like, dude, I love you, man. And he's like, thanks, buddy. And he goes, I got to go to work now. And I was like, yeah, I know.
Dude.
And then we came outside, same thing. He's standing outside with a buddy of his. And Savannah, love her to death. She had the balls of steel. She just goes, that's the same guy, right? And I go, yeah. And she just walked right up to him and she goes, Tom, hi, I don't mean to interrupt you, but my boyfriend Brennan like really is a big fan of yours.
Yeah.
And he wanted to say hi. And I'm standing there like a little kid, like,
right.
And he's like, come over here, man. I'm like, hi.
Dude.
But it's just living here. It's just now I run into those people all the time. Like, people I look up to or heroes or whatever you want to say. And it's just so like second nature.
Yes.
So I love hanging out with people who love comedy as much. And that's what I texted Zach. I don't know if he told you.
Yeah.
But as soon as I left you, I texted Zach and I said, oh, thanks for introducing me to Jake. You know, he's obviously wants to hustle. He's really hungry and he loves comedy. I was like, this is perfect.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people will send people my way and I'm just kind of like, oh, they just like they want to do the New York thing, which is fine. I totally am okay with that. But I'm like, that's not. Like, I'm not the resource for that. Like, I'm the resource, like, if you want to, like, do comedy stuff. But, like...
Exactly.
And you were on it, man. You were like, yeah, let's go here, let's go there. So I wanted to talk to you about how, like... How did you even decide to come to New York? Like, just... We're going to get into, like, how you got into comedy and stuff. But this trip in general... Because we talked about it a little at the Cellar, and I thought it was interesting. Because you have, like, a whole thing going on in Albuquerque.
Oh, yeah. Our scene in Albuquerque is actually really sick. We have some major killers, people who go on the road all the time at, like, legit comedy clubs. And we have a legit comedy club, too.
We have to say that, yeah. In Jacksonville, we do the same thing.
Yeah.
No, they tour with legit people.
Yes,
Like, we're not just, like, doing bar shows in, like, Savannah. Like, these are real things.
Yeah. And so, like, it's pretty, it's a dope scene. But, like, the thing is like I'm exposed to so much stand-up and I watch it all the time, and so like one of my favorites, when I like a big reason why I like just wanted to start doing it was because of Bobby Lee in at the Comedy Store, and he's like one of my favorite people just because he's like just so short and like I vibe with him like that. And
short kings, man.
Exactly, dude, 100%. But like I was like I was just exposed to, like, I was looking at a lot of, like, LA comics and seeing that, and then, like, just...
Because you're much closer to LA.
Oh, yeah.
What is that, like an hour flight, 2 hours?
Yeah, it's about an hour flight. Yeah, pretty much. And my sister lives there, too. So I was like, oh, yeah, this is perfect. But then, like, I started getting more into, like, the New York scene with, like, Sam Morril, Mark Norman, Joe List, and then obviously Attell.
Joe List, friend of the show.
Hey, Joe List, what's up? I'm Jake. Hi. But, like, it was just, like... Their writing style here in New York is what I love. It's like attention to like just writing, like set a punchline, like the good shit.
Being
and,
a
like,
wordsmith, yeah.
And like
using the right words, because there's, I say it all the time, like there are certain words that are just funnier than other words.
Yes.
So it's like, yeah, you could use this, but why don't you use that? It's funnier.
Yes.
It's the same thing with like numbers too. It's like, don't say 7, say like 75. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but to your point. And we talked about this. The thing I love about New York is how obsessed a lot of the comics are about writing. And even for me, like I'm not set up punch, I'm a storyteller.
Yeah.
But still, being in New York, it forces me to be like, that's too long, story's too long, like cut it down, cut it down, cut it down.
Yeah.
And then through doing that process, it almost turns into a setup punch. Like not entirely, but it almost turns into that because you have to whittle it down so much in this kind of style.
Exactly. Well, see, honestly, that's my favorite part about stand-up is just the writing aspect.
Yeah.
Like right now, like obviously like stuff with stand-up, I would love to do that, but I'm also looking to like, you know, writing for like late night and like that type of shit, like The Onion, New Yorker, all that stuff. I think that's just amazing.
Yeah.
And like just I remember seeing Attell for the first time videos, and I like just rapid fire slaying, and I was like, oh, this is comedy.
That is what it is.
And like it's so funny because every time like I'm looking for it, because I've listened to Dave so much, so every time I'm looking for a new comedian to listen to, I'm like, who has that style? Mm-hmm. And now it's like Mark Norman, Sam Morril.
It's funny because that Dave always does like the hey, and now Mark. Obviously, it's a different, but Mark is always like, hey.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, that is kind of similar. Like, it's a different tone, but similar cadence, similar kind of like bang, 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 bang kind of a thing.
Exactly. And
completely different tone, but very similar in style.
100%. And you could see, like, when they're on podcasts and they start talking, like, about Attell, you can see their eyes light up. And you're like, fuck yeah, I love that shit.
My favorite part is a lot of times there's an open mic that I go to on, it's called The Comedy Shop. We do New Joke Wednesday. So every Wednesday at 4 o'clock, the rule is it has to be all new material. So you could have only started doing it that week. So if you did it Monday or Tuesday, that's fine. But you can't bring in shit from last week. Now, obviously, if you're writing new tag, we don't follow it. Like if you're writing a new tag or something like that, you can definitely work it in. But like the kind of running joke is like it's New Joke Wednesday, only new stuff.
Yeah.
And it's one of the hottest mics. It's super popular. It always sells out.
Yeah.
Because, you know, everyone knows everyone's doing new stuff. So you're not going to hear the same 5 you heard of the last 4 mics.
Yes. Yeah.
But Dave, a lot of times, does his grocery shopping on Wednesdays around 4 o'clock. And I only know this because probably out of the 50 times I've been there, half the time you see Dave coming from CVS with like all these reusable bags.
And
if you didn't know it was Dave Attell, you'd think, oh, there's a homeless person.
Exactly. Yeah.
And he openly talks about like because the way he dresses and he wears that black hat and like just like that bomber jacket, and then he's got like all these reusable bags like off his shoulders, and you're like, oh,
yeah.
And then it just makes me laugh because I go, oh, that's one of the most successful and famous comedians I've ever heard of.
Oh, 100%. Like that is the legend right there.
Yeah, the man. So what actually brought you, because you still live in Albuquerque and you're just visiting New York, but why, living so close to LA and visiting LA so many times, why was it just the style, the writing styles of like Sam and Mark and all those guys where you're like, oh, I want to go check out New York?
It was a lot of that, but like a main thing, because I was supposed to go to Denver at this time.
Okay.
And
you had a trip planned for comedy. You just didn't know where it was going to be.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was supposed to be Denver, but I had no luck getting shows there. And I was like, well, because I'm in school and I had a really good semester. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. If I can't get a show there, let's go to New York and let's do that. And I ended up getting some shows and I was like, fuck yeah. But like a big reason is because in Albuquerque, like I have, not to like brag or anything.
No,
but
this is a flex show. Flex.
Hell yeah.
Look, do you not see the wall man flex
Oh,
all
dude,
you want?
fuck yeah. Dude, I have been killing it in Albuquerque. I really have been. Like
That is what Zach told me.
Dude, yes.
That
Like,
is why you're on the show.
yeah, hell yeah. Thank you. But like I have a show every single week. I'm at Mike's and I get props from some of my favorite comedians there. And they like, it's absolutely nuts. And when you're getting all of that, like, I guess attention or whatever, it's kind of like I'm very busy and it's hard to like take a step back and actually like appreciate shit.
Yeah.
And so
that's why I had to do this wall.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like I'm running around doing all this stuff, and I was still having phone calls with like people in my family or like my girlfriend now or like other people where I'm just like, I think I'm spinning my wheels. Like I think I'm not making the progress I need to make. And my twin sister, that's why she's on the wall. She was like, you need to like appreciate, like you've done a lot.
Yes.
From being, you know, on the cusp of death 5 years ago and now being 5 years sober and moving to New York and doing all these things. She's like, you've accomplished a lot, whether you know it or not. So then I put like that, all these like posters and stuff up because it's like, oh, it's like an appreciation kind of thing where it's like, oh yeah, you have to appreciate the stuff you've done. Because I'm, you know, not to toot your own horn, but beep. But Zach, when Zach reached out to me, he goes, listen, man, like you need to hang out with this guy. Like this guy's actually doing. And Zach doesn't say that for a lot of people. Like unless he believes in that person, he won't say that. So that's why I immediately was like, all right, cool. Like let's get him on the show.
Definitely. Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much, Zach. Like, yeah,
he's not
I love
gonna
that,
listen.
dude.
Zach only listened to his episode. That selfish son of a bitch.
Dude.
So, but you realize everything you have going on in Albuquerque, and then you can't get the shows in Denver. So you're like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go to New York.
Yeah, and it ended up working out like amazingly, and like I fucking knew coming here. I was like, it's gonna light another fire under me, and I'm gonna come back to Albuquerque with the fucking like I'm just ready to do shit, and that is I can't like. I love being here. I don't want to leave, but I also can't wait to get back home and just
be like watch this, motherfuckers.
Exactly,
yeah.
Dude. Because like just seeing, because I went to the Cellar and I went to New York Comedy Club and I saw shows, and there's like majority of the people going up, I don't know them. And I've never heard of them, and they are fucking killers.
It's amazing.
It's like, it's insane.
I've been obsessed with comedy since I was 12. I've been in New York for 2 years, and I actually we talked about this, but I actually go to shows. Like I'm still the guy who will like show up. And a lot of comics, once they get 5, 6, 10 years in, they become very jaded. And they like I even was talking to List about it. List was like, he's like, I need to watch more stand-up. Like I don't watch stand-up really anymore. I just kind of do my thing. And then and so it was weird because like a lot of people think it's weird for me because I'm always watching. Like I love it. And it's the same kind of thing though, where I'll go to like the Stand and watch a lineup, and you're like, damn, like how have I never heard of this person?
Exactly.
And I'm in it all the time. I'm inundated with it, and I haven't heard of this person, and they're crushing. And then sometimes it'll be the flip where someone will go up and you go, oh, I think I've seen this person on social media, and then they eat a dick, and you're like, okay, all right, I get it. Yeah, they've got a few 100,000. They fill the seats. I understand. It's a business. I see what's going on here.
Exactly.
But it can also be very humbling because you're like, oh, like, they're not even that good at this, and they're crushing it compared to me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, see, and that's the thing too, is like I don't like have a TikTok and I nothing crazy, but like I've had a few videos that like hit the algorithm.
Yeah.
And
I love how you say hit the algorithm. You completely understand what happened.
oh yeah, 100%.
Because
Yeah.
some people will be like, yeah, I'm pretty famous on such and such. And you go,
yeah. Like,
are you, or was it a perfectly timed storm?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Because like I post videos after that, and it's like 3,000, and then
Yeah.
the last ones I posted 300.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I hit the algorithm. That's what I did. But like it gave me a good like 1,800 followers, and I never had that on anything. And so I was like, I kind of just, I would prefer to build this slowly because I don't want to get to that point where I'm just like, oh, there's 100 and something thousand followers. I'm getting spots here, but I'm eating it.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want that.
Well, I've seen it. And you and I talked about this, and I've talked about this with other people on the show. We've seen it.
Yeah.
Where I've gone to shows with friends of mine who are very, very good comics.
Yeah.
And I won't say their name because we kind of talk shit. We'll sit in the back of the room, or they'll like come off stage and they'll be like, God, so-and-so, like, you got to talk to them. And I'll be like, what do you mean? They go, you need to take them to like some open mics or something. Because everyone knows, even though I've been doing comedy as long as I have, I'm still doing open mics and stuff.
Yeah.
So when I go to the bigger clubs, some of the comics who are big, like who are way bigger than me, that are past at the clubs, I'm like the ambassador to open mics. They'll be like, you got to take so-and-so to an open mic. And I'll be like, why? They go, because they're doing TikTok bits. Like they're doing stuff that they would do online on stage. They're like, that's
Yeah.
not comedy, man. Like you gotta take them. And I'm like, well, what am I gonna? Hey, Mr. Millionaire with all these hundreds of thousands of followers, you want to come to an open mic and pay $5 and
Yeah.
eat a dick?
Dude, yeah, it's like the open mics here is different too because
Yeah,
like,
you've done a couple now. So
Yeah.
what is that? Because we talked about how in Jacksonville, and you told me in Albuquerque, some of the mics are like shows. Like people come out and you have regulars and stuff. So what was your experience doing the open mics here in New York where it's just comics?
Yeah, it's all comics. So you kind of like, you go up there and in your mind, there's like a little bit of, okay, it's just comics. I'm going to come up here and not give too much energy and just not give a fuck. But then like, I'm also like, I'm here in New York for 1 week and I'm not going to come back for like months. So I'm like, I am going and then on top of it, I have this new bit that I'm trying to work out because I was just in Phoenix, and I was like, fuck it, let's do that. And I'm just trying hard to get the laughs, and it actually like plays good because even though it's just comics, like we were talking the other day, like you said, like if there's a chuckle, like that's gonna work.
Yeah.
If the comics die laughing, that's only gonna work here because comics are fucked up, and so it's like. I was getting like some chuckles and I was like, oh shit, this is good. This works in New York and it's a bit about Phoenix.
Yeah.
And I'm not even from Phoenix. Like, so it was cool. It like, especially talking to you, it gave me the way to look at mics.
Yeah.
Because sometimes in Albuquerque, there will be a mic where it's just comics and I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna riff. Like it's what's the point?
And I we talked about this too, but it was for the listeners. You can fall into this weird trap where you start going to mics so often, especially when you first start comedy, especially if you start in a major city.
Yeah.
Where you'll just start riffing on the comics in the room.
Yeah.
Like we had one comic who's always at the mics with us, and then he wasn't there this week, and someone goes, oh, he's in LA. And then one of the comics went on stage and was like, I was going to kill myself if you guys were like, oh, he's in LA doing late night.
Yeah.
Like if he made it before all of us, like I
Yeah.
would have been pissed. And the room exploded. Like we all start dying laughing. Then
Yeah.
like, and then he's like, why am I even talking about this person and they're not even there? And then we just keep dying. But it's like,
Yeah.
you could never do that. Like
No.
you just wasted 2 minutes for no reason.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
I did that like one of the mics, the 3 o'clock mic yesterday.
Yeah.
I went up and or on Wednesday I went up and I was like, oh, no one's going to get this because it was like a super inside Star Wars reference. But I was like, I'm going to say it anyway.
Yeah.
And I went up and I did it and then no one got it. And I was like, oh, well, it's totally niche anyway. And then I started explaining it.
Yeah.
And the host literally goes, 4 minutes, almost to be like, you're wasting your time. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is a crazy thing because, again, in shows in smaller markets, that kind of stuff doesn't happen. Not all the time because you're just like, a lot of times there's people in the audience and you're like,
Yes.
oh, well, no matter what, like we're going to try and make these 3 people laugh.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, looking at mics the way people look at it here, like how you said, like you're hitting all these mics and it's usually the same comics from each one.
Yeah.
So you're having to write a lot and brand new 5 minutes on all of these. I think that's fucking phenomenal.
Yeah,
Because-
well, you should be. You should.
Yes.
There's plenty of people who don't. And
Yeah,
then you're
exactly.
like, by
Yeah.
the third mic, you're like, you're obviously, it was funny at the first one, but you're not going to get a laugh now because this is the third time we've heard it in 4 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and see, in Albuquerque, like the process there with me, I don't know about everybody else, but like I'll start out the week with like 3-4 new jokes, and then I work those out through because we have mics Monday through Friday. Work those out, and then I'll have a show on Saturday, be able to use it then.
Yeah.
But like, I love the fact of just writing and writing and writing and writing, just like everybody here, well, like the good people do
Yeah.
at the mics and shit. And I think that's something that we should adopt out in Albuquerque because, like, there's a lot of like people who've been doing it like so long, and it's like you're doing the same thing at the open mics. It's like it's
you
pretty
guys.
nuts.
What you should do is you should implement a new joke mic.
Yes.
Yeah, because
would be
that
sick.
force, and then because even if it's just comics,
Yeah.
you could be like, you can't. No,
Yeah.
don't even try that bit. Like we
Dude.
know that's an old bit. Like don't even go there
Yeah, that would actually be
because
really
it forces
sick.
people to write.
Yeah.
There are times where I've gotten some of my better bits showing up to the 4:00 comedy shop mic, the New Joke Wednesday mic, and being like, I didn't fucking write anything new.
Yeah.
And then I'll be like fourth up, so I'm just like burning through any idea I've ever had.
Yeah.
And like I'll get up there, and then at that point it's so fresh because you just wrote it down that you'll
Yes.
riff on it's just premises.
Yeah.
But then you'll riff on them, and I record every set, so then I'll be like, oh shit. Like that is a bit.
Yes, exactly. And I think that would be like that's sick because you're up there, brand new joke. I get this where I get like a lot of like anxiety
Oh,
like
yeah.
going up there with a new joke and like you're thinking on your toes. So it's like, oh, some good shit comes from this.
Have you ever written something thinking, oh, this is gonna change comedy, and then you've gotten up and it's bombed?
Yes.
Oh,
a
okay,
lot.
good.
Yeah.
As long as
yeah, that's
I mean, that was I've done that with so many bits, but that was the case. I was telling my current girlfriend that the other day. That was the case lately where I was like, this happens with jokes all the time where you go, this is going to change the face of comedy.
Yeah.
It's coming at so many different angles. It's so layered.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a genius.
Yeah.
And then it bombs like 10 times in a row and you go,
Yep.
I guess I can't fucking use this bit.
Yes, exactly.
I was like, that's how the one-man show for me was.
Yeah.
Was I like did the one-man show and I was like, oh, this is going to change my life. This will change my career.
Uh-huh.
And then it comes out in 2 weeks. And then last week, John Mulaney's special aired. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, he did it, but longer and funnier and in front of way more people and
Yeah.
much more lighthearted. And
Yeah.
and then my whole world started like crumbling. And like I've been on a bunch of podcasts to promote it and I'm not getting as much traction as I thought. And I was like, oh, this is the bit thing.
Yeah.
This is the bit that you think is going to be awesome and bombs, but on a much broader scale.
Yeah.
Like this costs thousands of dollars and it's going to bomb. I was
Yeah.
like, oh no.
Dude, yeah, I can't imagine like because of the money aspect with that, I would be like, fuck, dude. But like
Well, they say chase your dreams.
yeah, exactly.
That's what
And
they
that's
say.
the thing.
And
And
then when the bill comes, you go, thank God I live on the 25th floor because
Yeah.
that's a straight drop right outside.
dude, 100%. But and then like the thing is like the way I look at it because I've never had to spend like a lot of money on shit, but I've had like opportunities to where I'm like, oh, this is gonna make me one of the top people in where I'm at, and I have the show and like nothing really comes of it. I'm just back into the normal thing. But then like from like taking a look from everything on an outside perspective, I guess. I'm like, it's a story to tell.
Yeah.
And I mean, so
Well, I
let's
got to
go
do 5
for it.
minutes out of doing the one-man show. So
Really?
that's,
See,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yes.
So if anything, I've got like a solid 5 just about doing it. And then
Yeah.
when the John Mulaney thing came out, that's just another tag.
Exactly.
To put, oh, then John Mulaney did it, but he did it better and in front of more people and
Yes.
for a lot of bigger audience. And then everybody laughs. And I go, yeah, okay. So it's just, yeah, it's terrible for my situation, but it just makes another tag.
Yes.
Because nobody wants you to be like, yeah, I did a one-man show and it was so awesome and so many people came out and I crushed it. I'm crushing life right now. Nobody
Yeah.
wants to hear that. It's like, oh no, it went terribly, terribly wrong. Tell us more.
Exactly. Well, there's something beautiful about like just the climb to the top. Like
Yeah.
that sounds like a Miley Cyrus song, but seriously, it's like there's something like everybody's like, oh, those are the best times. It doesn't feel like it. I'm fucking in it
In the
right
moment,
now.
yeah.
But,
Well, I mean, I say it all the time. It's a line from that movie Road Trip from back before you were probably even born. But
Yeah.
it's funny because they're talking about like getting somewhere, and the guy was like, "Hey, man, if it was easy, it would just be the way."
yes.
Because
exactly.
they're talking about a shortcut, and they go, shortcuts are supposed to be hard, because if it was easy, it would just be the way. But that line, if it was easy, it would just be the way, is something I think about all the time, because it's like,
Yep.
yeah, if doing comedy anywhere in the world, especially in New York, was easy, everyone would do it.
100%.
How many failed models and actors do we see where they're like, oh, comedy doesn't look so hard, and then within like 6 months they're like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's someone I see at the mics and they talk about how attractive they are.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, you can't. That's not what we're doing. Like, you cannot.
No. Yeah, that turns people off immediately.
Yeah, and
Like, it
especially
really
in a room
does.
full of comics.
Yes, exactly.
It's one thing if you do it at a show in front of Brooklyn pretty people, but when
Yeah.
you're doing it in a room full of like one of the opening lines is like talking about like, you know, being this hot.
Yeah.
And I always, because I try not to heckle, but at that point, they'll be like, you know what I mean? And I just start laughing. I go, no, nobody in here knows what you mean, dude.
Yeah.
Like, this is enough. That's enough.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about how you even got into stand-up, because you've been sober now for 2 years, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And so when did you, so you've obviously been very passionate about stand-up. When was the first thing that you saw or heard or... Because like I said, for me, I was 12. My cousin introduced me to Comedy Central Presents.
Yeah.
And I used to record it on VHS and watch them over and over and over. Mitch Hedberg and Tom Rhodes and those kind of guys.
Yeah.
And then I say this all the time on the show, but it wasn't until I saw Dane Cook's episode of Comedy Central Presents where I was like, oh, I want to do that.
Yes.
Like everyone before, it's like, oh, this is very funny, but it's a totally different style than anything I was used to. And then seeing Dane, I was like, oh, that looks like fun. Like,
Yes.
that looks awesome. So for you, what was that moment where you were like, oh, I want to do stand-up?
So, like, I had discovered it, like, very young, younger than I should have been, and everybody in Albuquerque would know. Everybody watches it. George Lopez,
Yeah.
the first stand-up special I saw, and I loved it. I didn't know that, like, I would ever be able to do that. Like, it was just seeing him just make joke after joke for a full hour. I was like, that's like superhuman shit.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, it's nuts. So I had always been a fan of watching stand up, and like I found Cat Williams younger than I should have been. Same thing with Eddie Murphy. Like
Pimpin'.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, Pimp Chronicles #2. It was the first Cat Williams shit. But like, I loved it. I always thought that was cool. And then, you know, that evolved to me being like the class clown, the dumb kid in high school, middle school, all that shit. But then that was about. I started smoking weed at about 13. I was really young.
Was
And
that because of like the group you were hanging out with, or was
Definitely.
that okay?
Yeah,
You're like,
100%.
Those assholes are the reason.
Dude. Yeah. So that, like, getting started at weed at that age, like, that was pretty nuts. And then I'm not saying that like weed is a gateway drug. For some people, it's not. For me, it definitely was.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see what different highs felt like. So then came the pills, cocaine, like everything, and it was like.
And when did you start drinking?
I started drinking like I had my first drink when I was super young, but like drinking like every weekend, it would have been like, had to be 15, 16.
So, and that's what you had said earlier before we started recording, and I wanted to map that out for the listeners. So you start smoking weed at 13.
Yeah.
And then there's almost a 2-year gap until you start drinking on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So in between that 2 years, were you just doing weed, or were you starting to get into other things?
It was just weed.
Okay.
And then.
Because that would have been really weird if you were like, I was smoking weed, then I was doing coke, and then I started drinking. That would have been bananas.
You know what's so crazy is I smoked weed before I ever smoked a cigarette.
Oh, really?
Was,
That's not too crazy.
It's not, because
No.
I thought it was weird, because all my friends around me would be, well, not all of them, but a lot of them would be smoking cigarettes, and I'm like, I just want weed.
So you hung out with degenerates.
Oh, yeah.
Did you grew up in New Mexico?
Yeah, Albuquerque, yeah.
Okay.
Which, it was like, it's different. Yeah, I grew up in like one of, not the worst neighborhood in Albuquerque, but it's one of the bad ones. It's the South Valley. So,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it was
You're like,
different.
I'm not going to say it's the absolute bottom, but
Yeah.
it's
It's
hanging
close.
out around there.
100%. Yeah, definitely.
So what was your upbringing like? Was it like, were you know, because obviously it has a lot to do with the types of drugs and alcohol and stuff we get into. So that's the thing. It's like, a lot of times people are like, oh, they were raised in a bad environment and that's why they're like this. It's like, well, no. I know plenty of rich kids that are fucked up on pills, and I know plenty of poor kids that are fucked up on heroin. It's the same thing.
100%.
It's literally, heroin is just Oxycontin is just chemically altered heroin.
Exactly.
Like, it's prescription heroin. So it's like, it has a lot more to do with the person and themselves than it does to do with like their surroundings so much.
Exactly.
So for you, was it like, oh, everyone's smoking weed, I'm going to get into weed, and then you were just like, oh, I love getting fucked up?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
that was
exactly
You're like,
yeah, it's pretty simple. I just liked it.
Well, see, the crazy thing about that is I didn't have a crazy childhood. My parents are amazing. I've had the
Shout
best
out
childhood.
to the parents.
Hell yeah, mom and dad, I love you guys. But like, honestly, I blame everything on myself.
Good.
I was just
There
a
you go.
young, dumb kid. And I had all the resources to do good in school, and that's what my parents wanted. But I was just an idiot, and so they are like nothing to blame. My whole family is perfect, and we have our problems, but like they gave me nothing but support, and I just was an idiot. So everything was 100% my fault. Like it was just
And that's something I can definitely relate to too,
Yeah.
because even when I was writing the one man shows, people would tell me in my family, they'd be like they saw it and then they would go, you never picked up the phone. Like
Yeah.
we were all here for you, but you never reached out, you never asked. And I go, well, yeah. And I realized years and years ago, back when I first went to rehab, that it was on me.
Yeah.
But it's so weird because I talk about this all the time, but when you get into that situation where you start to spiral, you can't see the forest through the tree. Like you can't
Yeah.
see the bigger picture because you're just like, well, I'm fucked up and I'm always going to be fucked up and that's just who I am.
Exactly.
And you don't realize that there's people around you like trying to help you and you're like, nah, fuck off. Like I just want to be
Yes.
by myself and get
Exactly.
fucked up with my dumb friends.
Yeah, 100%. And that's kind of like goes into like how I got sober is because just
Well, so I wanted to add before
Yeah.
we get there. So this is all happening through high school, obviously, 15,
Yes.
16. And then what ends up happening, because you had mentioned earlier that you're back in school and you and I had talked about how you're going to graduate in a couple years, but
Yeah.
you're 26. So obviously
Yes.
there's a big gap in between high
Yeah.
school and then going back to college. So what happened in the between times?
So I dropped out of high school at like 11th grade. Stupid, I was almost there, but I didn't care about going to school. I wanted to get fucked up. I would get dropped off at my high school, and then I would just ditch and go to my friend's house.
So
who
wait,
lived
your parents would like drop you off and then you would just walk away?
Yeah, pretty much. And then I would just go to my friend's house and smoke weed the whole day.
God.
But yeah, it was bad. And then so like I dropped out. I got my GED, which was good. And then
Well, I would hope so. You're going to graduate college soon.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true. So like I got that.
No,
and then,
I completely bamboozled the system and got into college without a GED.
Exactly, yeah.
University of New Mexico, go Lobos.
Right? Yeah, they don't check, and it's Albuquerque. Fuck it. But like, so yeah, and then so I started working. I was working bullshit jobs. It was call center.
So you were just like working and like getting fucked up.
Yes, pretty
Okay.
much, exactly. And then there for a long time because I was living at home with my parents. I still do, but like I would lose jobs. I couldn't keep a job, and then I would just be home for months. And then it's like I'm running out of money, so let's get back to working because I want to get high. So
That's something that I truly did not understand until, because I moved out around 17, so I've
Okay.
been kind of doing and there are stints where I've had to like stay at home for a couple months or like, you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
stuff like that. But for the most part, I've been paying rent since I was 17, 18 years old.
Yeah.
And that's something that in the back of my head I always think about, where it's like, especially, we talked about this, but those nights I go to the stand of the cellar and no one I know is there and I'm sitting by myself at a bar drinking water and I'm like, what did I made a horrible mistake. Like I need to go back to Florida.
yeah.
In those moments, I think, how cool would it be to fucking move in with like my aunt and uncle or my grandma and just fucking play Xbox all day long, not have any rent.
Yep.
She always has food in the fridge.
Yes.
Like get a job like 2 days a week just cause.
Exactly.
I'm always like, God, that would be the tits.
Yeah.
And that's what you were doing between high school.
100%.
So when you dropped out with your parent, I'm sure they were pissed.
So all throughout high school, I was just getting bad grades and stuff, and they were mad at that. But they had gotten to a point where it just kind of started in middle school. But like my teachers would be calling. They got to a point where they're like, "We're not answering." They're like,
Yeah.
"We're not answering the calls. You
This
do
is
what
on
you
your
want to
shit.
do."
Yeah.
Exactly.
So then you drop out in 11th grade, and then how did that conversation go?
I told my mom, I was like, I'm not going. She's like, all right, well, if you're gonna live here, you're getting your GED and you're gonna work. And I was like, I'm all for that. But
Okay.
then
So then that's when the odd jobs and stuff would start happening.
Exactly,
Now, were you
yeah.
going in like fucked up to work and stuff like that?
Oh yeah,
All the time?
100%. Yeah, I would smoke. I was smoking a blunt or a joint right before every break. I was smoking again, and then I would
So
take
this
pills.
is just weed. So, okay,
Yeah.
here we go. Yeah.
Yeah, because this was like.
So when did the pills and the coke and all that come into play?
So the pills. Oh shit! I had to be like 16, 17 because it was going on even when I was in high school too.
Okay.
And like just I was friends with the wrong people, and we're sitting there smoking weed, and there was this one kid. I won't say his name, but like his parents never gave a fuck. I think they were like all like they were strung out too. So we would go there to get fucked up, drink, and everything because they didn't care. And I remember he was like, "Yeah, I have these. They're oxycontin or oxycodone."
Yeah.
And I was like, "All right, I'll try it."
The weaker one for
Yeah,
those
exactly.
of you listening. For the uninitiated, but we are initiated, aren't we, Bruce?
Yeah, but like I was like, "Fuck it, let's do it." And holy shit, that was the best feeling I've ever had in my life. Yes, yeah, the itchies, and then I'm constipated and shit. Like
that was my favorite. I remember I was changing my twin sister's headlight one time, and I was drunk as shit, and I was being an idiot, and I was like, "Oh, am I supposed to?" Because I've changed a million headlights, but hers was in a Jetta, so it was weird because it was German. It was something I'd never seen because all the cars that I ever worked on were Fords.
Okay.
And so I'm like staring at the headlight bulb, and I'm like, "Am I supposed to like pull this bulb out of the thing?" You're not. Newsflash, you're not supposed to. So I remember I was trying to pull the bulb out, and the light exploded and shattered into my eye.
Oh shit!
And luckily I was wearing contacts, so I ripped my contacts out, and that shielded my eye.
Damn.
But I still had to go like to the doctor. Anyway, long story short, I ended up in the ER.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, you have like shards of glass in your eye," and they had to pull them out.
Yeah.
But then they gave me OxyContin, like the real
the
stuff.
good stuff. Yeah.
Because your eye is one of the most sensitive parts of your body.
Yeah.
But it also heals the fastest. So they only gave me like 7.
Oh,
and they're like,
shit.
"Oh, take one of these for the next couple days every like 6 hours."
Yeah.
And I remember I took one and I felt like that warmth, and I was kind of like, "Oh, this is cool." So then I took the other 6.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, this is awesome."
Yes. Oh,
So
dude.
I can totally understand how people could get down that rabbit hole.
Oh yeah, 100%. I was in love, so I started taking those a lot. If you didn't have those, I would take hydrocodone, which is even weaker. And what I would do with hydrocodone is
and that's got Tylenol in it.
It
too.
does.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I would do? I would get a cup of just like a little bit of water. I would crush them up, put them in the cup, mix it, and then take it like a shot.
There you go.
And that seemed to work.
Worked out pretty fine.
Oh yeah, and then
You know what you can also do? You can crush it up, put it in a spoon, melt it down, and then shoot it.
Oh yeah, that's another one. I never shot anything. that was a little. I'm scared of needles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
No, but that is. There's so many just living in halfway houses and rehabs and stuff. There's so many dumb tricks that I know now. It's like, but that I would never use because I'm sober. But it's like, oh, if you go to the doctor and say you have stomach issues, they give you OxyContin instead of hydrocodone because the Tylenol is bad for your stomach.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you can like, there's like little phrases you can say to doctors
Yeah.
where they have to help you.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh God, like I'm glad I didn't know those things back then. But the fact that I know them now makes me feel like a piece of shit. Like I'm a scumbag.
I feel it, dude. Yeah, there's like weird shit that I know too, where it's like, like one time I just wanted, like I said, I just wanted to experience highs. And I was like, there'd be times where I would just be like, I would snort like oxycodone and shit, and like I would just like, oh, let's try a different method. And there was one time.
Let's try this way.
Right, exactly. Like, there was one time where he didn't have any oxys or hydros, nothing fun, and he was like, I have Ambien, and I was like, all right. And so I crushed it and I snorted it, and
Ambien, the sleeping pill.
Yes, yeah. And I went like. I remember nothing, and I remember them showing me videos, and I was just standing in the corner of a room talking to people that were not there. Like it was some weird shit. Like me seeing the video, that enough should have been like, well, I want to stop this, but I was like, all right.
How
that's
old were
weird.
you with the Ambien thing?
I think I was like 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we still have a ways before you get sober.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So what ends up happening so you're living at home, and this is literally almost a decade where you're living at home, doing these odd jobs and stuff.
Yes.
And then are you just slowly getting worse and worse as far as getting fucked up, or did you kind of maintain at that level of fucked upness?
I would say it switches, because then I got into like drinking and stuff.
Okay.
And when I was 18 years old, I was like, oh, I'm 18, I'm gonna move out. I moved out for like 3 months.
And you're
and,
like, rent, what is that?
yeah.
I hate this.
Exactly. Well, so I go and I move like somewhere close to downtown, and I was just living with a buddy of mine. And
you said 3 months. Did you move and like sign a lease and everything?
No.
Thank God.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I wasn't on the lease or anything. I was just giving him the money. And that was when it got really, really weird, because I was drinking a lot, and then that's when a lot of coke came into play. And I remember.
And how old are you at this time?
I was 18.
This is right when you turn 18?
Yes, right then. And I remember just like friends coming over, and literally we have nothing, no alcohol or anything, so we're just having coke parties. We're just snorting and listening to music, like
starting businesses like crazy.
Yeah, exactly, dude. It was nuts. We could have figured out Bitcoin at that time. That's how much fucking coke we were doing. Like, it was a lot. Like, it was.
And are you working at this time?
Yes, I was working. Yeah.
Was this at the call center?
No, this was actually. I worked in a pharmacy for a little bit.
Of course,
I was a pharmacy tech. Yeah, exactly.
Of course you were.
Yeah, 100%. That was perfect job choice for me at the time.
You learn a lot.
Like, oh yeah, definitely, for sure. So that was a weird time, and then I ended up getting fired from there because I just kept calling, just kept calling in because it's like.
Wait, you got fired for calling out so many times?
Yeah, that was exactly it.
I was
Yeah.
hoping you were going to be like, I got fired because I tried to snort the Vyvanse.
dude, like I would see it too when they were dispensing it, and it's too regulated, and I was like, yeah, I'm good on that.
That is the other weird thing too, is people back when I was younger.
Yeah.
Because I'm older, I'm almost a decade older than you. But when I was younger, because I'm 30, I'll be 35 this month. So when I was 35. I'm recording in my apartment because I ran out of money for this one-man show. All right. But I remember in Florida, there were pill mills. They were called pill mills. So basically, you would go to a doctor and you would say, okay, my back hurts. And they would say, okay, well, here's a 30-day supply of Oxycontin.
Holy
And you go, okay,
shit.
cool. And then you go like down the street to another pain management doctor and you go, my back hurts. And they go, okay, here's a 30-day supply of Oxycontin. Because it wasn't regulated and the doctors wanted to push it because they were getting kickbacks from the pharmacy.
Exactly.
So I remember when I stopped playing football and I had gotten into a car accident and stuff, it was like super easy to get pills. Like, it was
nuts.
super easy.
Yeah.
And at the time I was like a true blue alcoholic. So I was like, well, I'm not really like, I love doing the pills and I love snorting the pills and doing all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm not like, if it came down to a choice, like I'm always going to choose booze over everything.
Yeah.
But then everything got super regulated.
Yeah, that's
like
the
super
thing.
regulated. So I'll run into people now where I talk about some of the pain management issues I have with my back. And, you know, I played football for a decade and I have all these brain injuries and stuff. And they go, oh, why don't you just go to the doctor and get some medicine? And I go, because it doesn't work like that anymore.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like you were saying with the pharmacy, how regulated everything is. Like, everything is under lock and like 3 different locks and keys.
100%. And there's timers.
I've dated nurses where they couldn't even get access to pills.
Yeah.
And they became nurses to feed their addiction.
Yeah.
Like, they became nurses to like get access to easy pills.
Yeah,
and now they can't even get them.
Yep. Now they're stuck with the debt.
Yeah.
It's insane. It really.
So as a
how
pharmacy
it is.
tech, you might have had the inkling to be like, oh, I could just take all this stuff, but you never were able to.
No, I never was, and there was also the idea that like everything is on camera. I get caught doing this, I'm going to prison. So I was like, and that's always been
In
a fear
Florida,
of mine.
it's 5 years per pill.
God
If
damn.
you have like painkillers
get
per
your-
pill, even if it's your prescription.
That's crazy.
When I was in the system, because, you know, there's all the times you go in from the judge and then you have to see everyone else. It's not a private appointment. Like, you see everybody else going.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, all right, you got caught with 3 Percocets. And that's a Schedule 2, so it's a little bit lower. It's like 2 years per pill. And they go, all right, that's 6 years. And they go, but no, it's my prescription. They go, was it in the bottle? And they go, well, no, I took it out of the bottle because I'm not going to carry the whole bottle with me.
Yeah.
They go, so you were caught with 3 Percocets. It's 2 years per pill, mandatory minimum, 6 years. Boom. Well, they say it by days. So they'll say like 1,800 and whatever days. Bang.
That's
and you're just
crazy.
like, that's it?
Yeah.
That's it?
Dude.
That's it?
What the fuck? That's nuts, dude. Holy shit. Yeah, see, it's shit like that. Like, I don't even know, like, the laws, like, what it is in Albuquerque. I'm sure it's something like that because there's a bad problem with drugs out there. But it's like...
We've all seen Breaking Bad.
Yeah, 100%. It's so funny quick tangent, meeting people here. They're like, Albuquerque? I'm like, Breaking Bad. They're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, we got it.
Yeah, exactly. But like, no, so I there was those thoughts all the time, like drooling, looking at that shit sometimes. Because I would count them because, or like they're doing through machines sometimes it's counted. But like I would see them, I'm like, oh shit, that looks nice.
And it's like the real stuff too.
Yes.
Not like that fake generic shit.
Well, you know what's crazy is like, fentanyl.
This entire conversation is crazy.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, but like you hear about fentanyl on the street and shit. I remember seeing it as patches in the pharmacy. So when all this story came out, I was like, people are getting that shit from the pharmacy. It's out on the street like that.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, it's different.
No, that's different.
Yeah.
The one's in the patches because they do a morphine one too. It's
Yes.
like a drip, and you put the patch on for like cancer patients and stuff.
Yeah.
People who have like severe pain. But yeah, the fentanyl that's one thing when it's in a controlled patch. It's another thing when people are just cutting their coke with it or cutting their heroin with it.
Exactly.
Which doesn't make any sense to me why they cut coke with it.
Yeah,
Because I'm like, coke's an upper. Why would you? I understand cutting heroin with it because you can make the heroin last a lot longer.
Exactly.
And then it's like better. So you can get really shitty heroin and then you mix it with fentanyl and then it's like, oh, this is the best heroin.
Yeah.
So I'm not condoning it, obviously. That's how one of my best friends died. But like I'm saying, from a purely business perspective, you can understand it. The
Yeah.
coke thing, I just don't get. It's like
No.
you're just killing your client base. Like,
Exactly. Yeah, that's a very weird thing. And like thankfully I had been into painkillers before fentanyl was really big on the
Yeah.
streets and everything.
well,
so
and then
I'm
you got
lucky
sober.
in
I mean,
that.
it's just been a really huge problem the last like 5 years. And
Oh,
you've been
yeah.
sober for a little while. So
Yeah.
Take me through the time. So you move out, and then what happens when you have to move back in? So you lose the job, and you're like, all right, I got to go back.
Yeah, I lose the job. I move back in with my parents, and then this is when stuff started getting bad because I was dating somebody at this point, and
Some whore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she cheated on me.
Oh,
but like,
bitch.
yeah.
You wanna
fuck
say her name?
Yeah.
I'll clip it.
No, yeah, fuck her. Yeah, she's.
We got a few thousand listeners. We'll cut it. We're coming for you.
Yeah, it starts with an S. Go just hate everybody with the name S. But no, like it got really bad because we ended up breaking up, and then that's when the depression just sank in.
So
and
you were, not to make it sound lighthearted, but you were functioning enough to have like a legit emotional connection with someone to the point
Yeah.
where when you guys broke up, you were kind of like, oh, fuck this.
Yes.
Okay.
It was
Because a lot of times in these situations, people get so zonked out. Like, I know I was so fucked up that, like, if someone, like, I literally dated someone and broke up with them, and I don't even really remember dating them.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah.
was so fucked up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it wasn't that bad, but obviously she didn't know the extent of what I was doing. But because we would smoke weed together, and I think that's all
Oh,
she kind
okay.
of thought that I was doing. But
So
yeah.
who cheated on who, really?
Exactly, right? Who knows? But like it was. I was just unhappy with myself, which kind of led her to cheat on me. So, like, I'm not saying that cheating is good. It's fucking terrible. You're an evil human
Sometimes
being if
you push
do
people
that.
there, though.
But exactly, and
I've
I
done
think,
that.
yeah, and I
Like
take
10
responsibility.
times.
Yeah, like I was just, I get why she did it,
Yeah.
but like that went really bad, and
So how old are you when that happens? Is this still...
I was about 18 still.
So
like,
you
yeah.
had moved out, moved back in, then you go through the breakup?
Yes.
Okay.
And like right after that is when shit got bad. Yeah, you know, a lot of self-harm in
Yeah.
that point, and I was living at home, and I kind of started being a shut-in, so I started drinking a lot more then. So the drugs slowed down a bit. You know, it was coke here and there, but like the drugs slowed down. I was doing a lot of weed and just drinking a ton,
Yeah.
like a lot. Like
Now it's a party.
yeah, exactly. Like the how much I would do, it got and I don't know if this is a lot. Somebody told me recently, they're like, "Oh, that's because you're small. You don't need that much."
Did you kick him in the dick? That's what I would have done.
Yeah, dude. Like I should have. Yeah, because I used to. Okay, so do you? I don't know if they have them here in New York, but like you know, just the mini shooters, just the one shot. Okay, yeah.
I used to keep those in my center console in my car.
Dude,
That's
like,
how I would get to work because I'd wake up and I'd be so shaky that I'd
Yeah.
have to drink those.
Dude, it's so convenient too. Just a little thing, boom,
Yeah,
pop in the
the
trash.
airplane
like,
one, yeah.
Dude, like, exactly. So I would buy 6 of those because there was a deal at my local Allsups where it was 3 for 3. So I'd buy 6 of those. I would get 3 tall cans of the White Claws, or it could be beer, but I would prefer White Claw.
Yeah.
And then yeah. So the 3 tall cans and then the 6 shots. I was doing that right when 6 o'clock came around. And
Oh,
then
so you were waiting. Okay.
Yeah, I
That's
was
good.
smoking weed once I got up, waiting till 6 because like it's like these weird gymnastics you put your head through. You're like, well, if I'm not drinking in the morning, I don't
Yeah.
have a problem.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I did that for a decade.
Yeah, and then you're like, I'm getting blackout drunk every night, but I don't do it in the morning, so I'm fine.
Yeah, I
So-
got to the point where, and I've talked. I don't even know if I've talked about this on the show before, but when I was in college and I first started like drinking,
Yeah.
I would drink Captain. Captain was the big thing when I first got to college.
Yeah.
But then my alcoholism got so bad, like towards the end of my college career, that I had to switch to Sailor Jerry because I could literally
Oh,
drink
shit.
half of a handle of Captain, and this isn't a flex, but I would drink half of a handle of Captain, and I would just feel sick from all the sugar, but I
Yes.
wouldn't feel drunk.
That's fucking nuts.
So then I
That's
switched
fucking-
to like I'd obviously be fucked up, but in my head I was like I'm not as fucked up as I want it. Like I'm not blackout drunk, which is why
Yeah.
I drink was to make the pain go away.
Exactly.
So then I had to switch to Sailor Jerry, And dude, because that's 92 proof, not 70.
Yeah.
So once I did that, it was fucking on. And then as I got older, I had to switch to vodka because I was like, oh, this like that much sugar is bad for you.
Yes, yeah. Vodka, like I was always a dark liquor guy. I was always whiskey and scotch. I loved that shit. But like, because vodka would give me rough hangovers.
Oh, really? See, I
Yeah,
was the opposite.
bad.
I was always real big into rum. But I used to drink Sailor Jerry with Mountain Dew. And my older sister was like, you're going to get diabetes at like 24, you piece of shit.
Yeah.
Code Red Mountain Dew, the cherry flavor.
God damn, that's a lot of sugar.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
So eventually but then I would get such bad hangovers from all that sugar and dehydration that I would be like, oh, I think I'm going to die.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think I'm going to die right here, right now.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I used to get rough hangovers with that, and then I would get blackout on whiskey, and I was like, "Oh, this is fine." I'm wake up, drink coffee, smoke a cigarette. I
And
don't
you're
have
good to
a
go,
headache.
yeah.
Yeah.
So when did you, because we're coming to the hour.
Yeah.
When did you, like, what was your last drunk? Like, when did you decide you wanted to get sober?
That
So you're
was-
living this lifestyle for like 5 years.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I remember the day. It was May 24th, 2021.
So-
20. Yeah.
So
May,
coming up on 2.
Yeah, just past 2.
Yeah.
Or no. That's my 2 years in stand up. It was April 16th.
Okay, okay.
2023 or 2021.
One, yeah.
But I remember that day, and
So wait, April, May. So you started doing stand up like right after you got sober.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and never done stand up intoxicated, which is crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
The first, I started in 09, 13. So the first 5 or 6 years I was in stand up, I was drunk every single time.
Really?
People are like, oh, it doesn't count. I go, fuck you, that counts.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
Like I
yeah.
still understand the stage and the timing and stuff. Like that counts.
100%. Yeah.
People are like, you didn't start stand up till you got sober this last time. I go, fuck you. That means I've only been doing it for 4 years. You're an asshole.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then that was another thing too. Is I was like, I don't want to have to rely on alcohol to do this.
Yeah, that
It
was the hard thing. Is I tell people all the time and you know this from getting sober, but when you
Yeah.
get sober, you have to relearn how to do everything.
Oh yeah.
How to play video games, how to watch movies, how to do all this because you're so used to it's Pavlovian. You're so used to doing it and taking a shot or taking a drink or taking a
Exactly.
smoke or taking a something.
Yep. And that's why like I'm barely because I was a shut-in and I'm barely like learning how to communicate with people like
Yeah.
again like I'm getting
You have to get back out in the
comfortable
world.
with it. Yeah, exactly.
So what happened? What was the last time you drank?
So I
Or
remember,
smoked or got fucked up?
yeah, it was. I was wasted. And this was like, and I still remember this because I was really drunk and I used to black out. So this was early. It had to be like I don't know, 7:00 at night. And my sister was moving to California.
So this would have been just like in still kind of the midst of a COVID kind of a situation.
Yeah, it was like right then.
Yeah, because 2021, yeah.
Yeah, and so I found out that she was moving there, and because she was getting married, her husband works for like something where he's always like moving around. So they were moving
I thought you were
there.
going to say a studio. I was going to be like, Jake, my new best friend.
Dude, I wish. Fuck, man. But like, I remember that, and it made me like reflect on stuff because my sister was somebody who I never thought would like move out of the state because
Yeah.
she was like very sheltered and like so I was always thought she was gonna be here, but she was doing that, and I always had dreams of doing that, but she was doing it, and just. Like I grew up with my older sister and we were always really close until like all the drugs and the alcohol came into play, and it made me think. I was like, okay, she's moving away and our relationship is just, I mean, it was never bad, but she just doesn't want anything to do with me really. Like, and obviously if she would say different things, she's always supported me, but like I remember getting drunk and going downstairs and just fighting with my parents, and I'd just see her she would give me a disappointed look
Yeah.
and she would leave, and I was like, she's moving away, and like I have like our relationship isn't as good as I want it to be, and I was like, I can't do this. Like she's getting married and she's gonna have a kid and she's not gonna want me around.
Yeah.
So like
The
that.
drunk uncle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was like,
Nobody likes the drunkle.
oh no, yeah, nobody likes the drunkle. Yeah, but I was like, I can't keep doing this. Like. Life isn't what I want it to be. I wake up every morning and I don't even want to continue. Like I can't do this. And so like
Yeah.
I made the decision then because I was just like I wanted life to get back to the way it was. I didn't care if I lost my friends. I didn't care if I wouldn't be able to do the things that I enjoyed. I was like I know my sister is gonna have kids and I want to be in her life and I want my relationship with my parents to get better. And
So how did you get sober?
so it was completely cold turkey. I was like,
You just stopped?
Yeah, I just
That's
I
awesome,
just stopped. It was, It was tough. Those first few months, man. I ended up playing a lot of video games.
Yeah.
Because I kept my mind out. I would put on some like new punk albums that I never heard before, and I was like, oh, this is cool, and I'm playing. So it kept my mind. That was the main thing. I was just keeping my mind off of stuff.
Yeah.
And
Well, because I tell people all the time, because I got sober through rehab and then AA.
yeah.
And people are all like, and I talked about this with Natalie Cuomo, friend of this show, but also I went on her podcast to promote the one man show, and she was like, well, what do you tell people who don't drink but never went to AA? I was like, good
Yeah.
for you. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I have to fucking follow all these like rules and regulations, and I have all these routines and stuff because that's what I have to do to stay sober.
Yeah.
If you don't have to do that, I'm envious of that.
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome.
Dude, yeah, I was always like kind of scared of going to like rehab and AA, so I was like, I'm sure I could do this on my own, and I was able to.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, it was. Thank you. Yeah, it was a good decision I made, but then I stopped drinking, and I realized that I've never really dealt with my problems.
Yeah,
so
that's something we realize.
Oh, dude,
Doesn't matter how you stop drinking, but
Yeah.
we all have to go through that same thing.
exactly. So I'm like, the depression was just unimaginable. I stayed home, never went out of my room, and that's when I had rediscovered stand up because I just wanted to see what it fucking felt like to laugh again because
Yeah.
I had forgotten what that was. And I remember like the first ones where I found Tiger Belly, Bobby Lee, and then Schultz, Andrew Schultz. And
He was at the cellar the other night.
yeah, I saw that. I was trying a week before I tried to get tickets, but it sold out. Or the reservation, you couldn't get a reservation. But yeah, so
I wish I would have known. I would have introduced you to him.
you know him?
Fuck no.
I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Dude, like you oh my god. Like
What
my
if I
eyes
was just
lit up.
holding out?
Dude, I would have been like, what are you doing later? Let's go
You
right
got
now.
So excited. You know him? No, of
Dude,
course
yeah.
not.
Oh my god, yeah, that would have been holy shit.
God, that would.
Yeah.
I wish, but yeah.
Right, dude. Yeah, that would have been a dream. But like, no, I started watching him and Bobby Lee, and I was laughing again. And I remember Bobby Lee talking about it because the way he started, he was like, I just wanted to like get good at something. I think the terms he put it, he was like, I wanted to get girls, so I
Yeah.
did that. And I was like, yo, I love stand up. If I can get chicks from it, I can do something, and I can like get good at something. Maybe this is what I like. Maybe this is something that I find that I know I'm good at.
So then you started doing stand up.
Started doing stand up. I went to my first mic and I did like one joke worked and I ate shit, but I was like, I'm coming back next week. Fuck it, because
See, it's interesting you say this because I have a lot of people on, and we talk about how they got into whatever they got into,
Yeah.
whether it's stand up, acting, music. And so much with comics, I went to my first mic and I did pretty well, and that's obviously what kept me coming back. But you are wired similarly to me, and I've had a few people on who are fucked up like this, where they go, didn't matter if I bombed or if I crushed, I was still gonna go.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I think that's the masochist in us. We're just like, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, I'm still gonna go.
oh, 100%. Because what I found is just being up there, that shit felt like coke.
Yeah,
So I was
you
like,
feel
oh,
good.
hell yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, let's do this shit. And so literally I just traded one addiction for another. But then I was blessed enough to find that, like, well, I'm not religious or anything, but like I was lucky enough to find, I was like, oh, this is what I'm good at. Because I'm 5'3". I don't do sports. I was never good with chicks. There's nothing in my life that I'm like, oh, I was good at that. Fucking stand up.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit, I'm good at this.
I can do this.
And yeah. And so, yeah. So ever since then, it's kept me in sobriety. My sister had a baby.
Congratulations.
And, yeah, I'm an uncle. I'm the funkle, not the drunkle.
There you
like,
go.
hell yeah. So, but no, that's another reason that keeps me sober is because like I don't want my niece to be like, oh yeah, that's my uncle. He gets drunk and I don't see him a lot.
Yeah, we don't talk to him.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, no, I'm.
Trust me, I've thought about that 1,000 times with
Yeah.
my nieces and stuff. Because you
It's-
also don't want to be the guy too, where it's like you say inappropriate things. Because I say inappropriate things sober.
Yeah, exactly.
So like I'm like I don't want to be the guy who gets drunk and says wildly inappropriate things.
Yes, exactly. And so yeah, so having her and she's
You're like, hey girls, did you know your mom was arrested 3 times before I was, huh? She's like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Exactly. See, yeah, that keeps me sober. She's a little cutie. She's like, I think she's like 8-9 months, something like that. So yeah, she's like, we're all in a family group chat, and they just sent me a video this morning. She's like watching Elmo and shit. She's adorable, and she was just visiting us like about a month ago, and so it was my first time like actually seeing her like
Being able to hold her and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
that's cool.
So it was amazing. So yeah, so everything that's happening in my life now, I went to therapy and I was able to deal with my problems
That's
in a
awesome,
healthy
dude.
way.
So this all came from getting sober and then starting
Yeah.
to do stand up and just dealing with shit.
100%.
So
yeah.
what is We got to wrap up, but before we do, what is your kind of thing? Because we talked about this at the cellar, and I don't know if you want to put it out there publicly, but you do eventually, once you finish school in New Mexico, are planning on moving out and pursuing stand-up?
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
And are you going to do New York or L.A.?
New York.
Okay.
New York, 100%.
That's right, L.A. Suck it.
New York. I'm coming for you.
Plug everything one more time. Let everyone know where they can find you.
Jake Otero Comedy on everything. If you're in Albuquerque, I'm on a bunch of shows. Just go to my Instagram. The link tree is right there. You'll find everything. And I'll be back in New York in a few months. Every time I get a break from semesters, I'm going to come here.
Perfect. Cool. Well, thanks for coming on, dude.
Of course. Thanks for having me. This was awesome.
Thank you, everybody, for listening at Brennan T Comedy on all social media, BrennanTComedy.com. Check out the one-man show premiering on Patreon.com/Brennan Tassif, May 31st, 2023, which is also my 5-year date of sobriety. Yeah. And we'll talk to you all next week.
Later.